Christian Bale was preparing for his role in American Psycho, dressing the part, hitting the gym, getting his teeth redone. There was just one problem. He didn't actually have the part. Leonardo DiCaprio did. What Went Wrong is a podcast dedicated to the idea that every movie is a miracle. Join Lizzie Bassett and Chris Winterbauer every other week as they unearth the chaos and humanity behind Hollywood's biggest flops and most shocking successes. They aren't here to dunk on your favorite films. They're here to celebrate movies. As the New York Times said, they're movie industry people who truly love films and the people who make them. Listen to What Went Wrong wherever you get your podcasts.
You've got a great idea for a small business, but you just can't get it off the ground. You want to be your own boss, set your own hours. Well, new year means new opportunities, and Shopify's got you covered to help get your venture off the ground. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. You can get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. And they help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard. Don't kick yourself next holiday season when your 2025 resolution list looks the same as it does today. Make it happen with Shopify. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/income.
The NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We finally hit 250 episodes. So what better time to talk about CeCe Peniston's unforgettable 1991 dance anthem, Finally. While some may argue that this is a controversial pick, Peniston did have a few other top 20 hits. Her name often lands on lists of 90s one-hit wonders. How did this powerhouse vocalist, whose talent and charisma were undeniable, end up with her career so tightly associated with just one song? In this episode, we dive into CeCe's career, explore the enduring legacy of Finally, and uncover why her other successes were quickly overshadowed by this timeless classic.
One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a wonder, or is it one hit thunder?
So Matt, finally, we are here to talk about Finally from CeCe Peniston. It took us this long, and there might be a reason it took us this long, because I kind of don't consider CeCe Peniston a one-hit wonder. CeCe, if you're listening, We Got a Love Thing and Keep on Walking, these songs feel like hits to me too. And I got to ask you, Matt, because is this when you're out of your blind spot to music by the early 90s? Did you know this or not?
No, so I always say that it's 94 when I really started to know music. Now, Finally has been like unescapable as a song. You know what I mean? Like, especially for someone like a drag queen loving guy like me, like this song is like constantly on like RuPaul's Drag Race for lip sync battles and stuff like that. Now, I think the understanding that I had, because I don't think I put CeCe on there originally. I think that was either something we found on like a list of one-hit wonders online or something else. And I don't understand it because she had 3 top 20 hits on the Billboard charts. And obviously she had 3 number 1 hits on the dance charts, but like the dance charts are it's a whole other world. You know what I mean? When you get into like that's why like Cowboy Mouth counts as an alternative rock 1-hit wonder, but certainly not like a mainstream 1-hit wonder. You know what I mean? Like those, when you get into those individual charts, it becomes a little bit more weird. But yes, under all circumstances, we probably shouldn't be doing this episode, but that, Chris, seems to be a reoccurring theme, I feel like, when we get these anniversary episodes. Similarly, we did Aha, Take On Me, even though they had a top 10 song shortly thereafter. But
okay,
this is easily the song that had the most staying power.
All right.
Post 1992.
Finally is the song they're performing on RuPaul's Drag Race, you're saying, not Keep On Walking or We Gotta Love Thing.
I'm sure they have. Anything that's club, you're going to see some drag queens voguing to it when they have to lip sync for their life. Like, that's just going to happen.
All right. So, CeCe, if you're listening, we apologize for calling you a one-hit wonder when you're really not. You're kind of more of a one-album wonder because, I don't know, I kind of consider all these songs hits. But Finally is the one. And I got to tell you, Matt, this is one of those songs. When something good happens in my life, I feel like this song plays in my head. I don't know why. Finally, it's happened to me. Right in front of my face. Is it right in front of my face? My feelings can't deny it or something like that.
My feelings can't describe it.
Can't describe it. Right. My feelings can't describe it. Which I believe she's talking about love in this song. Like, finally, I found love.
I actually do have a direct quote from what this was inspired by. She wrote this song when she was 16 in chemistry class.
Okay.
And she was imagining what it would be like when she started dating someone in college and finally met her Mr. Right.
Okay.
And she had said in an interview basically like, this was a work of fantasy of me imagining finally meeting a good guy after meeting all of these wrong guys, and that feeling of elation that I finally, after all these duds, found like the right guy.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing that I knew very little about CeCe prior to us deciding to do this episode. If you had paid me $1 million to say, who is CeCe, I would have assumed that, you know, a couple episodes ago or a couple years ago, we did the Weather Girls and how one of the Weather Girls kind of became this like voice of the club scene later on in life. When I hear this voice, I think that this is like a 40-year-old soul singer with that deep, like, that, like, there just feels like there are years in these vocals. So to find out that this was recorded when she was, 18 years old or something?
Really?
Is
she was that young?
Insane. She was that young.
Yeah, I saw that Finally was released when she was 21. I don't know when she recorded, but she burst onto the U.S. club scene that year in 1991. But I thought her background was a little interesting, too. She was crowned Miss Black Arizona in 1989. And then her career began when this DJ Felipe DJ Wax Dog Delgado, who was her friend and record producer, asked CeCe to do backup vocals for Tanya Davis, a.k.a. the female rapper known as Overweight Pooch, which has got to be the craziest rapper name I've ever heard. But they wanted her to add vocals to the Overweight Pooch album Female Preacher, which was coming out on A&M. So this Overweight Pooch was on a major label, but the Overweight Pooch album didn't really take off. But the one thing that was notable from it was CeCe's vocals. And I think that caused a little riff. I don't think Overweight Pooch was too happy about that.
See, I've heard mixed reports. So real quick about Underweight Pooch, because there is not much. Sorry.
Underweight Pooch.
A little bit about Overweight Pooch. Basically, CeCe doing the background vocals on this album is the most notable thing. The album Female Preacher is the only album Overweight Pooch ever put out. And unfortunately, R.I.P. Pooch passed away in 2021, just 5 days after turning 51 years old. So the quote that I found was actually from Pooch, Tanya Davis. She said Tanya Davis was pregnant at the time that she recorded the album and swore that she harbored no jealousy towards Peniston. She said, there's no jealousy because she has a voice. I may have given her a chance, but I didn't give her that voice. So it sounds like Pooch was kind of on her side, being like, look, when you've got undeniable talent like this girl has, like, obviously people are going to take notice. The same newspaper then interviewed Peniston, and in her own words, she said, I feel like anything's possible, but I know one thing. If it wasn't at this spot, I would still be trying to do whatever it took to get to this spot. So basically just saying, like, even if Overweight Pooch didn't have me on her album and that got me in the ears of A&M Records, I would still be putting in all of the work that I could possibly be putting in to eventually get signed to a record label to do this, which is a great attitude to have.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. When I was doing the research, I walked away being like, CeCe seems like just a delight of a human. I'm not sure if you read about the Monica controversy.
That was later in her career, but when Monica was on the come up and she kind of looked up to CeCe Peniston, but CeCe was kind of dismissive towards her. But then later on, apologized for that, because I believe CeCe does help a lot of artists, right? That's kind of her thing.
Well, so what happened was that in 2008, Monica was being interviewed, and she talked about how she recalled that her manager cousin Melinda asked CeCe Peniston, who was huge at the time, so we're talking about like 1994-ish, if Monica could sing for her. And Monica remembered Peniston being very rude and doing everything she possibly could while I sang, and that she was devastated by the experience. And it was almost immediately after this interview came out, a friend of Peniston sent the article to her, and she responded to Monica on myspace.com. So boy, are we ever in 2008. And she said she had no recollection of the event, but wanted to sincerely apologize, saying that she has always encouraged and supported children and speculated that she may have been distracted by her staff at the time. She further elaborated, at the time I was still very young and very new to the industry myself, and I had not learned how to properly balance everything, and it hurts me deeply to know that I made you feel that way. And Monica thanked her for her apology, and that she was touched that she still cared that much after, almost a decade and a half had passed.
Yeah.
And I think that to me is like, that's so sincere and honest, right? Because you have so many of these stories of like a young person getting just hit with fame all at once. And like, yeah, it is a lot to like, suddenly you're balancing 20 different things and your brain's not even fully developed yet. You're, 22, 23 years old trying to juggle all this. And I think that is like a very sincere thing that she probably said, like, look, I didn't know how to balance things yet. And I am so sorry that like turned into a bad thing. Like, I think that was a very big of her. And in like the world of like online apologies, I felt like that was one of the more sincere and honest apologies I've ever seen. Like,
yeah, we like CeCe Peniston, but I got to say, I am impressed that there was no name change. I mean, elephant in the room here. She has penis in her last name. Her last name, as noted, I believe, by Beavis and Butthead when they show this. Her name, it's CeCe Peniston. She has the word penis in her last name. That's wild that she was able to be so successful without changing that name. No one along the way was like, look, I hate to break it to you, we got to go by maybe CCP or something. No, she kept it, and I respect that. Dude, she came out the gate, as you like to say, with this album where it was once finally started catching on. She had to put out an album. It was sort of a rush to put out her debut album, but she did have these two other hits. Keep On Walkin' hit number 15. Now, Keep On Walkin', for my fellow people that grew up in the early 90s, Keep On Walkin' is keep on walking, I ain't talking to ya anymore. You definitely know this song if you grew up in the early 90s. And We Gotta Love Thing is we gotta love, we gotta love. Like, these are pretty recognizable songs. If you were watching MTV or watching The Grind or Club MTV, I don't remember which one it was in the early 90s, but it was basically the same show. These are very familiar songs. And I guess Finally is the one that stood the test of time. And I don't know if it's the whole concept of the song that, I don't know, man. It would be like if you're in the Olympics and you get that gold, you work so hard and get that gold medal. I could see Finally coming on and being like, finally, you've come along. Like, I could see that really hitting hard, and it would sound way better than how I just did it. But yeah.
Well, and I mean, even at the time that her follow-up single, We Got a Love Thing, came out, even Billboard had to give it a shout out. Larry Flick of Billboard actually wrote, attempting to duplicate the magic of the now classic club anthem Finally is an seemingly impossible task. However, with the aid of a great producer, Peniston has come pretty darn close with this delicious pop house combo, which she exudes immeasurable charm and the sass of a total diva. And that song kind of rules because it also samples that opening drum beat from Rock With You by Michael Jackson throughout it.
Okay. That's pretty sweet. I guess I didn't realize that's what that was. That's cool.
Yeah, that bump.
Yeah, okay.
All night.
Yeah, good jam. She won a bunch of awards.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
in 92, Best New Artist at the Billboard Music Awards, 3 ASCAP Awards, Finally was Song of the Year, the most performed Song of the Year, and she was the Pop Songwriter of the Year for 1992. She won a bunch of other lesser awards, too. But yeah, within a year, she was back in the studio to record her sophomore release, where she didn't want to get pigeonholed in the dance genre. And Matt, I'll tell you, I don't know if that was the right decision. I think maybe she should have stuck to her guns a little bit, because the album Thought You Knew was released in January of 94, but it did not come anywhere near the success of Finally.
Yeah. And she kind of just put out a few more records in quick succession and has been at max dropping singles from this point on since 1996. It was her last true album. I'm Moving On, which seems like almost yeah, it seems like the right name.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she kind of just pushed into R&B, but man, you gotta love how good. Chris, you and I have talked about this, man. That early to mid 90s club music scene, I don't think I appreciated it at the time that it was happening, but boy, in like 2024, am I like pumping Finally by CeCe Peniston? Am I pumping Real McCoy?
Yeah.
Am I like blasting LaBouche or Snap? Like, it was a great time for just music that made you want to dance. I mean, don't you have plans to have a soup party where this is exclusively the type of music we listen to?
I love this soup party that we theoretically talked about. And I've thought about it again, and I don't know about eating a bunch of soup and then dancing. I don't know if that's necessarily the best combo. But Matt, I love that you like this music so much. I don't think I liked it or I wouldn't admit that I liked it probably then. I was probably too cool to admit it, but it was probably a guilty pleasure. Now it ain't a guilty pleasure. It's just a pleasure to listen to it. It takes me back. It's nostalgic. And I love that you and I both like this music when, by all accounts, I imagine that part of the appeal of this was being in a club and possibly being on drugs while listening to this. Now, in the early 90s, this isn't like when we talk about, I don't know, we've talked about some stuff like The Streets or whoever where, yeah, being in this club in England or something and being on some weird drug. I don't know that there's necessarily a drug that goes along like peas and carrots with this music. I could only imagine it would be like something that makes you want to dance all night, maybe cocaine. But early 90s doesn't seem like a very cocaine time. That seems like more 80s. So I don't know.
I'm sure it bled into it, but like you also have to think, and listen, this is 2 straight white guys talking about this, which is not the key demographic for what I'm about to talk about. But you have to imagine that these were also crushing it specifically at like gay clubs, and I feel like gay clubs were a lot bigger in the 90s for like Molly and ecstasy or whatever the precursors to those were, poppers for say. Like I think that there was some type of like keep you energized and up dancing type drugs floating around because like the idea is like, so you've got the song Finally, and I don't have evidence that this is specifically the case, right? But like you have like a song like Finally, which runs like a normal, 4 minutes or so. Usually these songs would come with the club remix, which was like 8 minutes long with just like extended versions of the beat just going and like random vocal samples. Like I every year or so, like when I'm going to UCD stores, as you know I do, there's always like, oh, I want to get every album of this series. And like a couple years ago it was the Jock Jams albums. Now it's been the MTV Party to Go's. I just want to get all the MTV Party to Go albums. And those tracks are so long because they are built in that, like that album is designed to literally be a party to go. Like you pop that in the CD player and for like an hour, you have just like one track just bleeding right into the next track, like in a nonstop party type feel.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be on ecstasy. And then when she hits that part that I cannot do an impression of, the finally you come around. Like that must have felt so good in the club when she hits that part. Like that is like an explosion in that song. Yeah. And I mean, some of these other songs too, Keep On Walking. I can't imagine how hard I would be dancing on ecstasy to Keep On Walking. Like I would want the 20-minute version of that song if that was the case. So we can only imagine what it's like to be on ecstasy in 1992, Matt. But I got to admit, it sounds pretty cool.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
I don't think it overstates things to say that the Beatles were the greatest gift to entertainment and culture of our time, a secular religion, if you will, with their universal appeal and demonstrable impact on people's lives. I'm Robert Rodriguez, host of Something About the Beatles. With every episode, I speak with historians, musicians, artists, and Beatle witnesses, all in the service of fresh insights into the most joyous cultural entity the world has ever known. I hope you'll join me and listen to Something About the Beatles, now on Evergreen and wherever you get your podcasts.
Bowie, Dylan, Marley. You've heard the names and maybe you've heard their songs, but what about the stories behind the records that made titans of music like these so universally loved and important? Join me, Josh Adam Myers, host of The 500, as each week I go through a different album from Rolling Stone magazine's 500 Greatest Albums list from 2012 with an incredible lineup of comedians, actors, and musicians talking about how the music has impacted their lives. New episodes of The 500 come out every Wednesday. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, one-hit thunderers, thunderheads, thunder buns. All right, I'll just go with one-hit thunder listeners. This is Krista Makes, guitarist and vocalist for Less Than Jake, and host of Krista Makes a Podcast, a songwriting podcast where every week I'm joined by an amazing guest to break down the writing, recording, and release of one iconic song that they have written. In our giant evergreen back catalog of episodes, we've had rock legends such as Dee Snider and Huey Lewis, punk rock favorites such as Mark Hoppus, Fat Mike, and Brett Gurewitz, up-and-coming artists of today such as Liz Stokes of the Beths and Genesis Owusu, and even some of the artists that have been featured on One Hit Thunder. The show is even produced by One Hit Thunder host Chris Fafalius. What more could you possibly ask for? Krista Makes a Podcast is available for free on all the places you listen to podcasts, and new episodes come out every Monday. I guarantee you'll like it, or we'll give you your money back.
Matt, if we build a time machine, I know you don't do drugs, but if we build a time machine and went back to 1992 and we're listening to Finally in the Club, would you do a little ecstasy and put a little vapor rub on your face with me?
Probably not,
No,
honestly.
come on.
Chris, I don't need it. I'm already going to be on the dance floor.
Around this time that Finally peaked at number 5, we had Michael Jackson, Black or White at number 1. We had All for Love by Color Me Bad at 2. Can't Let Go from Mariah Carey at 3. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me from George Michael and Elton John at 4. And then finally there at 5, right above Diamonds and Pearls from Prince and the New Power Generation. I Love Your Smile, which we recently did an episode about, was at number 7. It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday from Boyz II Men. What a jam. Number 8. Smells Like Teen Spirit at number 9. I love that Finally was at number 5 and Smells Like Teen Spirit was at number 9 at this moment. And even more than that, Matt, I love that the next 2 songs at 10 and 11 were The Adams Groove from MC Hammer and Too Legit to Quit from MC Hammer. So
MC Hammer was on. Listen, this is why we'll never do an episode on MC Hammer.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
Stop asking.
I mean, that is just a wild top 10 when you got Finally and Smells Like Teen Spirit and then 2 MC Hammer songs. It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday, Shanice. It's amazing. And yeah, I mean, it's a wild and crazy time. A lot of things hitting at once. It's like when we look at those charts from like the, I don't know, mid 2000s or whatever, we're always like, this is boring. This is all like the same type of music at the top of these lists, and nothing's really that interesting. But this is when a lot of styles and genres were all hitting at the same time, and I think it's what made the 90s so great and fun.
I agree. Now, Chris, before we do our final portion, do you have any questions or anything? Any little trivia for me?
Do you want to play a game, Matt?
I always want to play a game.
Let's play a game.
Finally!
You got a game! Okay. Matt, I have 6 questions for you. You will not get multiple choice. They're all about 1992. How many can you get out of 6?
1992 is still a little bit in a rough patch, so I'll say 4. 4 of the 6.
Oh, okay. I like it. On January 8th, 1992. Now, Finally hit its peak in January of 1992. That's why I'm going to January 8th of 1992. Who got sick and puked on the Japanese Prime Minister's lap? Puked. Straight up puked on the Japanese Prime Minister.
Was that George Bush?
That was George H.W. Bush, which I think is incredible. How could you just not puke somewhere other than Japanese prime, like literally anywhere else other than on the Prime Minister of Japan?
Okay, one for one so far. I'm off to a good start.
You might get this one too, man. On January 16th of 1992, this artist performed an episode of MTV Unplugged, which became his best-selling album and the best-selling live album of all time.
Was this when Eric Clapton did it?
You got it. Wow.
Yeah.
It's in the way that you use it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's
Layla.
what. Yeah, that's what Layla was from. Yeah, we don't like Eric Clapton around these parts, but he does have the best-selling album of all time. Otherwise, he sucks. Okay. On January 19th of 1992, this iconic wrestling personality became WWF champ at the Royal Rumble.
In 1992.
Yeah.
WWF champ. That would have been, I think that's too soon for Bret Hart. I'm going to,
I love that you got the first two.
So,
you're like a wrestling guy.
Well, but this is like, so most of my wrestling knowledge, unless it was a major thing, starts with Monday Night Raw, which was in 1993.
Oh, slightly
so
before
like
your
this is
time.
like just outside of it. And I guess my thing is like, Can you repeat the question real quick, actually?
On January 19th of 1992, this iconic wrestling personality became WWF champ at the Royal Rumble.
Oh, I know what this is, actually. Shit, yes. This is Ric Flair. This is when he won the Royal Rumble to get the title.
Wow, good job, man. You're 3 for 3.
Yeah, well, so I had to think for a second. The 1992 Royal Rumble is like one of only 2 times where winning the Rumble got you the championship.
Oh.
So I was thinking, it must have been a match that wasn't the Royal Rumble.
Oh, my God.
I was like trying to think of who would have had a match during that.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
The useless knowledge in your head is astounding. Astounding.
Can't pronounce words correctly, but I know what year were one of the 2 years that the title was on the line for the Royal Rumble.
The guy who called her underweight pooch. Dude, I mean, overweight pooch. I mean, underweight pooch. Okay. You got a perfect score going. You got 3 questions to go, and you might you might run the table. On that same day, January 19th of 1992, this professional wrestler and actor beat the Mountie to become the WWF Intercontinental Champ.
Beat the Mountie. And he was an actor?
Yep. Sure was.
I don't think this was Hogan. The Mountie seems really below Hogan, as does the Intercontinental Championship. Was this Macho Man Randy Savage?
There goes your perfect score. It was Rowdy Piper.
Oh, Rowdy Piper, of course.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, you got to get one of these next 2 to hit your goal. This one might be a little bit out of your wheelhouse, but you should know who this person is, Matt. On January 21st of 1992, this now broadcaster for CBS Sports and analyst on the NFL Today became only the 2nd coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers since 1970.
I got no freaking clue. Do you have like a multiple choice or anything or no? This is just okay.
There's only been 3 coaches of the Pittsburgh Steelers since 1970. The current one, this one, and Chuck Noll was the real famous one from the 70s. These guys are all super famous. Do you know who the current one is?
No.
Mike Tomlin. You don't know who Mike Tomlin is?
Never heard that name in my life. If you like asked me to name any football coaches right now, the only names I would know was like Andy Reid and like Belichick, and I think that's about it.
Belichick's not in the NFL anymore.
But didn't he just announce he's coming back next season?
College.
Oh, at a college.
He's a college coach.
Gotcha.
You don't know who you're from Philly. You don't know who Philly's coach is?
Not a clue. Honestly, I don't know Andy Reid because he was the Kansas City Chiefs. I know Andy Reid because everyone kept complaining about Andy Reid for 15 years while it was football season.
Well, the coach of the Eagles is Nick Sirianni, if that name sounds familiar.
Don't know that. Nope. Don't know that name whatsoever. All right.
Well,
I'm going to just say that I don't know.
You're obviously not going to get this question right. There's people just yelling at their podcast app right now.
They're so angry. But at what point have I ever made it seem like non-fake sports
let's see.
was the thing I knew?
Let's see if you know this name at least.
Okay.
Bill Cowher.
No.
You don't know who Bill Cowher is?
No.
Dude, that would be like me not knowing who The Undertaker is. Like, I don't like wrestling, but I know who The Undertaker is. You know, I don't know.
I mean, fair. I don't know. I know so few.
All right.
Especially football. I feel like football's my biggest of all the sports blind spots.
Fine. Let's give you your last question. You got 3 out of 5 so far.
All right, let's see if I get my goal.
On January 19th of 1992, this late rapper was born in Pittsburgh.
Late rapper? Mm-hmm. Oh, was this Mac Miller?
You got it. You got 4 out of 6. You hit your goal.
I hit my goal.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if we should even do the Thunder Blunder because it's kind of a blunder for us to call CeCe Peniston a one-hit wonder.
Well, that's true. And also, Matt, one more little tidbit we skipped over. Yes, she released her 3rd album. She actually recorded a 4th album that was then not released. And like you said, she's released singles ever since. But I thought it was interesting that at one point, I think it was her 3rd album, she released a single called Before I Lay, You Drive Me Crazy, which featured her then boyfriend, JoJo Haley of Casey and JoJo. This song the intention of this song was to establish CeCe as an R&B artist instead of like a club dance artist, but the song did not even enter the Hot 100. I think it's pretty cool that CeCe, despite, she didn't really worry about losing her audience. She said, when you're first coming out as an artist, many times label executives have their own vision for you, but as you move forward, it's only fair that you begin determining your own direction. People will make the change with you as long as you're honest about your craft and display a comfort for what it is that you're doing. And I think that's good. That's a good message for artists out there, to follow your heart, and she's obviously had a great career. This song, finally, it's still out there. It's still being played in the club, I can only imagine. The clubs that I don't go to. Okay.
This song's never going to go away. This is one of those songs we always talk about, like party playlists. You put this on a party playlist, people are going to be excited. Like they're going to hear this, they're going to be like, "Oh shit!" Like, you'll get a big reaction, and then they'll most likely start dancing.
Yeah. So thunder, blunder, or hinder on CeCe Peniston. First of all, like I started the episode saying, though this song may be listed on lists of one-hit wonders of the 90s, she's not really a one-hit wonder. So this is far from a blunder, far from a hinder. This is very thunderous. This is actually theoretically like a 3-hit thunder.
Yeah, it truly is. So, you don't even need we can't even send you certified mail. You'd be like, what the hell is wrong with these guys? I had 3 hits. Yeah. So just go check out more of CeCe's music and support her.
Yep. We love you, CeCe.
This has been One Hit Thunder. One Hit Thunder is hosted by Chris Ofalios of the band Punchline and produced by Matt Kelly of Geekscape.net. Underneath me, you're hearing Found Out About You from the Punchline EP, Songs from '94. Visit punchlinemusic.com for any upcoming news on the band. Our podcast is on Patreon now. Find us at patreon.com/OHT podcast for early access to episodes, bonus conversations, and a chance to vote on future songs for us to cover. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on any podcasting app. And tune in next week for more One Hit Thunder.
You struck dead. Did you love me only in my head? Well, the things you said and did to me, they seem to come so easily. The love I thought I'd won you give for free.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Pandolfi inviting you to check out the new season of my podcast, Inside the Musician's Brain, with new episodes airing now.
Hearing it in that room, these guys playing this thing and trying to figure out how to play this song was mind-blowing. It's so inspiring to know there's so much more to it than you ever thought. And it just opened another door.
But when people find faith because they need to, in terms of just filling a void to feel better without actually being better, that's when it becomes a crutch, much like drugs and alcohol do.
Man, I don't have all the time in the world here. If I want to be a professional bluegrass musician, I felt like I had to take a very strategic approach, just trying to get rid of the barriers and figure out what those barriers were.
The feelings still come and I have to reckon with that, but I think I have better ways of moving forward and not being stuck, which I think was the killer for me.
Catch all that and so much more on the new season of Inside the Musician's Brain.
Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.
Welcome to us talking about our podcast for a minute.
What's the name of that podcast?
That's Axe to Grind, and right now you're going to be getting a little taste of it, right down to the shaky microphone and all.
And my name's Bob.
And my name's Patrick, and usually we're joined by Tom.
Tom's the best. Tom has a real grown-up job that requires him to be at work, but we talk about decidedly not so grown-up things like
hardcore music and things that people that like hardcore music tend to like.
So that could be the latest shows, revisiting classic material, talking about the new classics, all the little dorm room nonsense that you imagine from niche music podcasts that you either love, want to love, or hate.
Yeah, imagine all the emotions that you have towards a genre that has impacted your life, and then condense them down to an hour to 2 hours a week.
So triangulate your speakers, think about jumping off the bed, singing along, dancing like an idiot, and listen to Axe to Grind podcast.